to do it and why we must expand it. So I'm going to go back to the year 1969. 1969 in East York, Toronto. Children in elementary school were coming home from school bawling their eyes out. You guys know what bawling your eyes out are. You're crying. Bawling their eyes out, saying they didn't want anything to do with Africa. They didn't want to be black. They came home and they got white talcum powder and put it on their skins to cover their blackness. 1969, East York, Toronto. They would get clothespins and put on their nose to make their nose straight because they didn't want anything to do with Africa or blackness. You can imagine the parents, and you can imagine the system that created that. So the parents got together and said, we have to do something about this. Because the school system was hating on our children by talking about their history, their heritage, in ways that they saw in a brutally negative way. 1969, East York, Toronto. The parents got together and said, we need to do something about this. And they said, we are going to take matters into our own hands. And we're going to teach our children history about Africa, about themselves, that put them in a positive light. But not only put them in a positive light, but was truthful about what had happened. And from that meeting, parents got together and they formed an organization called the Black Heritage Program. Guess what? In doing that, there were people in our community that says, no, we don't want to do this. We trust the system will do right for our children. And there was a group that says, hell no, look at our children coming home, bawling their eyes out, putting white powder on their skin, hating Africa in every sense. And there was a fight within our community. One element wanted to stay with the system and hope and pray for the best. And another element says, hell no, we need to do things differently. That program has been in existence since 1969 and still exists today, right? Parents of those children run the program. Have nothing to do with the Toronto District School Board. They decide on the content. They decide on the delivery. And they raise funds themselves for the program. The program is now called the African Canadian Heritage Association. And as a matter of fact, there's people here right now that I know have come through that program. Right? The one that's clapping. But there's a lot more. And it makes me feel good when I walk on the streets of Toronto, when I'm working in our community, and somebody comes up and says to me, do you remember me from ACHA? Or I was in the program, how is it going? And you know what? Some of these people are brilliant leaders in our community now. The first principal of the Afrocentric School, Tanda Hyman, came through that program. Warren Salmon, who does First Friday, came through that program, right? Akwata Kente, who is now working with the city on big projects, he came through that program. Look, when you feed our children positive food about the history of Africa, about the contributions of ancient African civilizations, you are going contrary to what the school system is teaching our children. Last week I was in Mississauga talking to grade 5 students, talking about ancient African civilizations, which they've never heard of before. And not only that, about the contributions that they've made to global history, world history. And I go back to Egypt, and I talk about astrology, mathematics, script writing, math, architecture. I show them the pyramids, and I say to them, how the heck could anybody in these ancient civilizations build this without the technology that we have today? How the heck could they? So I do swear every now and then, so please bear with me, right? How the heck could they do it? And then I went down into past Egypt, south, and I talk about the ancient empires of Mali, Songhai, Ghana. And I show them the richness, the civilization, the government structures, education, medicine, what they were doing, and we still can't figure out how the heck could they have been doing it without the technology of today. And the grade 5 students, you could see the sparkle in their eyes, the excitement, the enthusiasm, because now they were seeing things from a different perspective. Right? The teacher in the class, she had an assignment due, and they had to pick an African country to speak about, to do research on. When she said, come and tell me which country, there was a mad rush to pick a country and do something. I'm telling you this because we talk about Black History Month today. And a lot of people saying, why are we focusing on black people? Why are we focusing on Africa? We need to do this. We need to do it because when the history books came out, there were certain people and certain parts of the country that have been left out. The population in Africa right now is 1.3 billion people. 54 different nation states, countries. And you talk about history and you can't include them in a positive way? Something's wrong with that. Black History Month gives us an opportunity to refocus on Africa in its true sense. Not manipulated, not ignored, not misrepresented by a European narrative. So when people ask me, why are we focusing on Africa? Why are we focusing on Black History Month? I look them in the eye and I says, are you really asking that question? So today, look, I can get emotional because I see the damage on our children when you destroy their identity, when you misrepresent their history. I see the damage when you don't have a positive image of yourself. And we see the damage it's causing. We need to do this work. Right here today in Oshawa, we have vendors here. And I'm walking around and I'm looking at the vendor tables. And you know what I've noticed that consistent amongst them all? They're all selling products, services that showcase Africa in a positive sense. Give them a big round of applause, come on. This is one of the things that need to be done. But between me and you, don't tell anybody I told you this. They call it Black History Month. We call it Black History. There's no limitation. So for you people that are doing this business, I hope that you don't shut down come the end of February. I hope that you continue. And for you people that are walking around, I hope that you go around and support and engage them. Even if you're not buying something, just say hello, please. Right? Take their contact information. You might need their stuff later on. This is one way we can make things right. Also, there's many organizations in our city that are trying to make things right. You saw the drumming. And everybody came up here and had a good time. Dancers, drummers, newbies, seasoned people, all doing something together. One thing I'd like to add to it is the drum, the history of the drum. The drum that you are seeing is a spiritual instrument. In African history, only certain people were allowed to play the drum. When I say a spiritual instrument, I'm talking about, think about this, and this is the way we saw it. The tree that gave its life to make the drum. The animal that gave its skin to make the drum. The purpose of the drum in terms of communicating from village to village. Whether there's a celebration, whether it's good news or bad news. Right now we have internet. We have social media, right? We have television, we have CNN, we have CBC. That's how stuff was communicated. In that time, the drum was the main communicator between villages. And people knew what was going on. They knew when it was going on. They knew why it was going on, because of this drum. So the drum is a spiritual piece in our history. And I don't want people to ever forget that. You cannot forget it. So I know there's a lot more going on there on the program today. If you want to talk to me on the side, feel free. Right now I'm working with gun violence in our community. And I'm just going to take about 30 seconds to say something good, because normally I bring bad news. The gun violence numbers over the last 8 years have been going up. Young people have been more involved. It's been more deadly. And it's creating a lot of hurt, trauma, and pain in our community. However, my good news, my positive news today is that the month of February is coming to an end. So we've gone through January, we've gone through February. And the number of gun homicides so far this year compared to the same time last year have declined 100%. 100%. Last year, this time, we had 10 people that had been shot and killed. This year, we've got 0. And the reason why is because people are getting together, working together, supporting each other. We always talk about the extended family or the village approach, where we always used to care for each other. I'm seeing more and more of that. The people that got together and organized this event is bringing people together. The more we can do this, the more we can create spaces for our young kids, our young youth, positive alternatives, the better it will be. They tell me not to mention it because I might jinx it. But no, I'm going to let you know, because if it's bad news, guess what's going to be on the paper tomorrow? Front page. So I'm going to tell you, gun homicides are down 100%, and gun shootings are down 50% from this time last year. It's going in the right direction, but we need to sustain it. We need to keep it going. But it's done through unity. It's by, one of the themes here is raise your voice. Speak up. Speak up in the schools, right? For the young ones here, I saw this young person just dancing the hell out of dance, right, you know? I saw young ones drumming. People are gonna tell you that you are leaders of tomorrow. Tell them, heck no. I need you to be leaders today, because we all know tomorrow never comes, right? Yeah. So the leadership that we are cultivating here is the young people, but they need to start leading today. They need to start having a positive difference in schools, in their homes, with their friends, because the 10 shootings that we lost lives to last year at this time, each one of them had an intervention point where if somebody had said something positive, encouraging, or supportive, it could have prevented it. My mentor, Dudley Laws, I remember I told you I go back a long way. He passed a few years back, said to me, nobody's born with a gun in their hand. Nobody's born with a gun. Nobody's born saying I want to be a drug dealer, a gang leader. Nobody's born that way. There's a sequence of events that takes place. He says to solve the problem of gun violence, understand that sequence and interrupt it. But you gotta want to do it. It's not gonna happen by chance. So let's celebrate Black History Month, but let's also recognize that each and every one of you here today has a role to play. Lift up your voice. Be encouraging, be supportive, make a difference where you can. As I said, we talk about Black History Month. We're not talking about Black History Month anymore. We're talking about Black history, and we're talking about world history. You cannot talk about world history if you don't talk about Africa. So thanks for inviting me to speak today. I really appreciate, I really value these opportunities. I like walking around and seeing the vendors. I like supporting them, but I'm already running out of money. But I'm going to do the best I can, and hopefully I can get home in one piece. Everybody has a role to play. Support the vendors, learn about the history. Don't wait for just Black History Month. Be encouraging, be supportive to the young ones, and also understand that you can make a difference in somebody's life. It doesn't have to be the government, it doesn't have to be the police. It doesn't have to be the police. You can do it. You all matter. Make sure you understand. Thank you very much.